Like I stated at the end of my Terrifier video, I came to learn that Art the Clown had actually appeared in movies previous to that. A 2006 short movie called The Ninth Circle, the 2011 short of Terrifier, and this movie, All Hallows Eve. A collection of both of those short movies, as well as one other loosely tied movie, all featuring Art the Clown. They're intertwined together with an overarching story of a babysitter looking after two kids on Halloween night. The movie begins with the two kids and their babysitter sitting in the living room after a night of trick-or-treating. One of the kids empties his bag of candy to notice that somebody had placed a VHS tape in there. Seems like the kind of thing you'd notice, to be honest. It's not like you'd mistake it for a Snickers bar. Curious about the totally not suspicious tape placed in a kid's bag of candy that definitely doesn't contain absolutely horrific things on, she puts it in because apparently this is one of the few houses that still own a VHS player, and we then see a bunch of surprisingly high definition shots for a VHS tape showing what seems to be an abandoned asylum before it then cuts to Art the Clown doing Art the Clown things, as well as these two other creatures. Thinking that it's just a scary movie, the kids join the babysitter and sit down to watch it. Yeah, sure, let a bunch of 10-year-olds watch this random tape. Seems like a good idea to me. We see a woman named Casey sitting down and waiting at a train station, and we learn that it's Halloween night after two drunk people in costumes accost her for a cigarette. And after returning from the restroom, she's greeted by the totally not horrific sight of Art the Clown sitting across from her and staring. A slightly different looking version of Art the Clown, but an equally terrifying version of Art the Clown. While staring and smiling at the woman in his signature staring and smiling at women way that he loves to do so much, he pulls a horn out of his bag and begins to annoy Casey with it. He comes over to her and hands her a flower with a bug in it, and as she tries to run away from the terrifying bug-handing clown, he grabs her and injects her with something. Just as she's passing out, she looks up to see him with bright glowing eyes and a big demonic smile. She wakes up with restraints around her neck, still in the train station by the sounds of things, and she turns around to see two other women who are also restrained. Their names are not important as they're all obviously about to die horrific deaths, but for the sake of formalities, Sarah and Kristen. They tell her that there was another woman with them before, but something came and pulled her by the chains down into the darkness. And as they're discussing what to do in order to get out of this rather unfortunate predicament, Sarah gets violently dragged away from the others to also be taken down into the darkness. So with that in mind, the surviving two also decide to go down there, because yeah, sure, why not go into the direction of the creepy murderous clown? They reach the end of their chains and begin to try and break themselves free. But as they're doing so, someone who really looks like they could benefit from exfoliating appears before cutting off Kristen's arm and killing her. Because screw that arm, I guess. The creature breaks Casey's chains while trying to kill her, giving her the opportunity to make a run for it. And as she does, she ends up running into a homeless man with an expressionless stare. But it's not a home that this man is going without, it's a face. As when she looks back at him, that expressionless stare is replaced by, well, nothing. She wakes up once again restrained, because apparently these monsters are kinda freaky like that, except this time she's surrounded by faceless people, a witch, and a duck man. Sounds like my kind of party. We see a pregnant woman restrained in the same room as her, presumably the woman Sarah and Kristen were talking about earlier, before Smiley from that terrible Shane Dawson movie appears, and apparently he's so excited for the birth of the baby, he can't contain himself and pulls it from her stomach like a child unwrapping presents on Christmas Day. He fills the chalice with the blood from the wound, and then hands it to the literal devil to drink. Nothing hits the spot quite like wound juice. Her clothes are then forcibly removed, and the devil man pulls back his hood to reveal his horns, with it implying that he's going to impregnate this woman too, giving him the ability to stock up on fetus juice. The babysitter then turns off the TV, after realizing that she's just watched the latest Womb Raider movie with a bunch of 10-year-olds. I'm sure the parents are gonna love that one. After filling the kids with ample nightmare fuel, the babysitter decides to put them to bed, because there's nothing funnier than terrified kids trying to go to sleep. And after a fake-out jump scare with kids throwing an egg at the window, because this wouldn't be a Halloween movie if a house didn't get TP'd or egged, she gets the urge to sit down and carry on watching the tape, because nothing grabs your curiosity quite like forced infant removal. And this second film is weird. Don't get me wrong, devil fornication is weird in its own right. This one is truly something. It starts off with a woman on the phone, talking about how she's just moved into this new house and loves how quiet it is compared to the city. Quiet meaning that it's probably remote, and remote meaning that it's the perfect setting for aliens. Nah, that'd be stupid. We learn that her husband is an artist, and she's not exactly a fan of his latest piece. It freaks her out to the point of needing to cover it. Later that night, she sees a bright flashing light out of her window, followed by an impact that causes the power to go out. Wait a minute. After not being able to get the power back on, and realizing that there's no cell service, she hears a noise coming from upstairs and notices a window is now open. Surprisingly, she doesn't act like your typical horror movie character cliche and think, that window was absolutely shut before and that noise is kind of worrying. I better go check it out, and decide the best course of action is to get into her car and flee. See, it isn't that hard to have characters act in realistic ways, but that smart decision is forcefully cut short, as when she tries to flee, the car engine won't start up before she then notices a strange light flickering behind her. After making the smart decision to get out of there after something bad was clearly occurring, it's strangely confusing that she now chooses to make a bad decision and to go back into the house. Yeah, the house that you just ran from because of the strange noise and open window. What happened to fleeing? So what, your car won't start? You've got legs? Use them to run away before something removes them. She gets a call from her husband, because I guess the plot conveniently needs the cell service to be back now, and she does some of the most hilariously bad fake crying that I've ever heard.
Oh, what if I get off the phone with you and I can't get in touch with you again? I told you nothing's working, John. There's something really strange going on around here.
Her husband tells her to call the police instead of, wasting time calling him, as something begins to move in the background. And as horror movies have taught us, that's never good. And never good indeed, as after grabbing a knife to investigate a sheet on the floor, you never know when you might be attacked by a killer sheet, she slowly pans the torch across the room, because apparently she's in no real rush here, and eventually reveals a slimy looking alien creature. A slimy looking alien creature that likes to dance apparently. She gets cornered by it, but due to her carrying a knife to deal with that awfully threatening looking sheet earlier, she stabs it in the suit a few times, before tripping on the stairs and being grabbed. But this alien isn't interested in killing her or probing her in any way. All this alien seems to be interested in is having a little wiggle. Eventually it decides that it's done showing off its intergalactic moves and attempts to stab her in the leg with something, but the woman much preferred it when the alien danced, so she kicks it in the face and makes a run for it. She locks herself in the bathroom, and the alien, still looking for her, presses a button on its suit that emits a loud ear-piercing sound. Some say worse than a toddler's scream. A beeping noise that is so horrific that it somehow causes the woman to scream and to reveal her location. Yeah, sure, make that loud and annoying noise go away with a loud and annoying noise. It kicks the door in and tries to force a hentai tentacle in her face, but she pulls out a tube from its mask and makes another run for it. She makes like Harry Potter and hides under the stairs, as the alien creature walks around the house, waving its arms around, engaging in some form of dance. I don't remember that from Harry Potter. Her phone rings, because once again the plot conveniently calls for the cell service to be back, and the alien does this absolutely hilarious run over to the stairs before breaking open the door. I'm not sure what's with this alien dude. I'm pretty sure someone just dropped an acid tab and was told to do their best alien impersonation. The alien pulls her away as she screams and begs for help, and as she's dragged into the other room, she pulls down the sheet that was hiding the painting to reveal a large portrait of Art the Clown. Because I guess you need something to tie this random short film to Art the Clown, considering that it's sandwiched between two movies containing Art the Clown. Apparently that fact bothers the babysitter too, as she then decides to turn the TV off, but when she does, for a fraction of a second, she thinks that she sees the alien creature watching her, rationalizing that it's probably just the kids, as they do somewhat resemble hideous intergalactic alien creatures. But as she checks in on them, they're both in bed and apparently haven't moved from it this whole time. And because she loved watching the strange dancing alien movie so much, she decides to head back downstairs to continue watching the mysterious videotape. What's next? Dancing Bigfoot. The third short film begins with a woman driving down a dark road on Halloween night. She pulls over for some gas, but there doesn't seem to be anyone around. That is until she gets jump scared by the one and only Art the Clown, after he gets kicked out of the gas station for rubbing his feces all over the walls. Because nothing says intimidating killer clown quite like poop. After getting scolded by the employee and doing his signature terrifying Art the Clown faces, he notices the woman, grabs his bag of goodies, and walks away. As the employee is filling up her fuel tank and giving her directions, a loud noise is heard coming from the gas station, probably the serial wall poopist. He goes in to investigate the disturbance, and after she sits there waiting for a while with no sign of him returning, she decides to go in and see if she can find him. And as she enters a room, she's greeted to the sight of Art cutting through the man's neck with a saw. He looks up at her with a terrifying smile, almost as if he's telling her that he enjoys it, and after noticing the dismembered body parts scattered all over the room, she makes a run for it. After deciding that she'd rather not be turned into a pile of assorted meats, she flees in her car and starts to hilariously shout down the phone at the police.
Yes! Please! You have to help me! There's been a murder! There's been a murder! The old gas station on Route 94!
What is it with these movies and unintentionally hilarious phone calls? But as she looks up, she sees Art, somehow in front of her, waving the car down while holding a sign that says circus. She ends up swerving off the road after being distracted by her phone running low on battery. Damn millennials and their phones. And as she's at a stop, Art jumps at her window, terrifying her as he tries to get in the car. She manages to get away from him, but almost a matter of what seems like seconds later, she spots a car pulled over on the side of the road, and instead of, maybe driving away at full speed with her freshly full tank of gas, far away from this psycho killer clown that has already proven that he can practically teleport, she stops to get some help, but finds the driver of the car, still alive, but with a severely mutilated face and both of her hands cut off. She looks like she could use a hand, or two. She continues to drive some more, and after trying to have a conversation with her boyfriend on the phone, Art appears from behind the seat and pulls a sheet of plastic wrap over her head, because apparently he really loves incredibly inefficient ways to suffocate people. She tears it open, because obviously she does, and slams on the brakes, causing Art to smash his head against the dashboard. She runs into the woods and finds an abandoned building to hide in. After locking the door and hiding in there for some amount of time, Art channels his inner worm and begins to tunnel his way into the building from the ground. As she notices him and tries to flee from the worm-like clown, he begins to repeatedly whip her with a bladed chain, but eventually one of the scalpels break off from it, giving her the opportunity to take it and stab him in the eye, before taking another one of his knives and driving it into his back. Thinking that she's killed Art, she flags down a passing motorist and begins trying to explain what's just happened. He tells her that he'll take her to the nearest police station, but then a car appears behind them, trying to flag the pair down. As it pulls up alongside their car, it's Art, covered in blood. He pulls out a gun, and instead of hitting the brakes or speeding up, the driver just kinda stares at him before taking a bullet to the head, causing the car to crash and the woman to be knocked unconscious. We see her coming to, laying on an operating table underneath a bright light, and as she turns, she sees trays full of bloodied surgical equipment and knives, before turning the other way to be greeted by Art, mocking her by laughing and pointing in her face. She looks down to see hateful words carved into her skin, because apparently Art thinks this is a League of Legends text chat, before the camera then reveals that she's completely naked, with both of her arms, legs, and breasts removed, because Art really likes to collect human body parts. Back with the babysitter, because, oh yeah, there's a plot trying to connect these short films together, the phone rings, and when she answers it, it's the call the woman made to the police in the short film that she just watched. The TV turns itself back on, and it shows Art the clown, appearing from behind a post and walking directly up to the camera. He waves directly to the babysitter and begins banging on the glass as if it's a window. The TV then displays the room that she's in, but with Art sitting right behind her. But as she turns around, he's nowhere to be seen. He stands up and slowly begins making his way over to her, but she manages to remove the tape and smash it just before he touches her. She hears the kids screaming from upstairs, and as she runs towards them, she is stopped in her tracks at the sight of Art, standing there at the top of the stairs, covered in blood and pointing at the kids' room. He disappears after she covers her eyes, but when she does make it to the kids' room, she finds both of their heads bloodied and decapitated laying on the bed. They were annoying anyway. At least he didn't poop on the walls. And as the credits begin to roll, we see Art in the same room as before, making his way towards the camera. And then that's the end of All Hallows Eve. So wait, if Art the Clown exists in the universe with the babysitter and kids, as well as the universe that the short films come from, did Art and his devil buddies all get together to film a couple of short films to show people before they murder them? Like, did he hire actors, do special effects, post-production, cameramen and all that? Or is that just something I'm not supposed to think about? The best way I could describe this trilogy of short films is weird, but also fun. But the second story with the alien does leave me scratching my head a bit. Sure, Art is technically involved with it, but it doesn't stop the thoughts of making it feel like it was just tacked on to make it somewhat fit with the other two. And the whole dancing alien thing raises a few questions as well. So if all three of these movies take place within the same universe, that means that not only do killer clowns, devils, monsters and witches exist, but aliens do too. Unless they're all actually aliens. In Terrifier 2, I want to see Art face off against a dancing alien. If you like the type of content that I produce, I have got a Patreon that does mainly act as a tip jar with a few extra benefits, so if that's something you're potentially interested in, there's always that option. But if you're not in a position to or would rather just watch, that's always okay too. Don't ever feel pressured. I just wanted to say a big thank you to you guys for your continuous support, especially after what happened to last week's video with that getting removed. We all know about YouTube's broken copyright system, so I'm not going to go on raving about that, but that video did end up getting removed and my channel did get an unfair strike, putting it at risk of getting deleted actually if I get 2 more. So the fact that there's people in my corner are actually willing to financially support what I do is incredibly inspiring and does serve as a little bit of a safety net. And if you've got some suggestions for the series, the channel's also got a Discord, so you could leave them there or also just chat to people from the community as well. So a big thank you to Dom, Bort, Hunters263, Rebecca Pitts, Total Drama Rebooted, A Dandy in Space, Martin Brannan, Natasha Twyman, Rin and Whiskey, Jarrett C. Bees, Nicholas, Pascal Mathis, at X.Factors, Alex X. Jackson, Fighting the Pirates, Tajvia Sandhu, Victor Kartalov, Richard McGowan III, Kyle York, Eddie Shiving, Macy J, Reese Harford, Horatio, Toby, Jamie Thompson, Raimi Patterson, Chris, Michelle, and Newcomb. So once again, thank you so much guys, and thank you to everyone else for watching.